Hi there, my name's Melissa Westbrook and I'm a digital AI consultant, and today I wanted to talk you through a tutorial that I did actually borrow from a previous, another YouTuber really, and I'm going to reference them below. They originated this tutorial, but I wanted to talk through it today in a little bit more detail and just talk through some of the things that I encountered and how you can actually solve for them quickly and easily as well to get the sort of output that you're looking for. So with this tutorial, what actually happens in this workflow is that we're going to take a news article that's newsworthy about a topic that's special to us and relevant to our blog, might attract an audience to our blog, generate a new article for us to work with and an image to go with it. And that's going to then appear in the drafts folder of our WordPress blog so that we can tweak it, update it, whatever we need to before we go ahead and hit publish. Now, a couple of things to talk through is today we'll use RSS feeds, we'll use ChatGPT, and we will use WordPress from a perspective how you can actually obtain API keys and that sort of thing so that all of this flow works for you, as well as where some of the hidden costs are as well. It's not as cheap and easy as it looks just because make.com is free. Okay, so let's dive in though. Let's see the output of our model, and then let's just see it run. So what we want is for our blog post to basically appear here in our drafts folder of our WordPress blog. So you can see here I've generated quite a few, and it should appear here when we're ready to edit it and decide whether we want to publish it or not. So let's just kind of run this automation just so that you can see how it works. Essentially, it's taking a news article. It's going to generate a blog title for that news article, a whole new one. It's then going to use that article title to create a prompt for creating a new image in ChatGPT as well. And then from there, what's also going to happen is a new article will be written, and then it will all get combined together in that WordPress blog post, basically. So here's the output. We can see it here. It's currently writing the post module. Now WordPress is actually creating a media item to use within the blog post, and we now have our blog post. So the last one ran at 1:15. If I give a nice refresh here, I now have a new one here at 1:40, and this is when we can click and see our new no-code AI software blog post. We can see our image generated, and we can actually scroll down and see our blog post as well. And it's all very stylistic, and it doesn't necessarily have that ChatGPT vibe to it. I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks to make sure that your blog posts actually feel personal to you and consistent with your brand, that nothing has to necessarily feel ChatGPT-ish. What we want here is to create the content that resonates well with your organization and doesn't cause you too much heartache trying to get it the way that you want it. So if we go back to our make.com page here, what we're going to do is we're actually going to recreate this particular workflow. So I'm going to dive here into this particular view. I'm going to go back to our scenario, and I'm going to create a new scenario. So this is a tool called make.com, and what this tool is really good for is if you've got very simple set and forget workflows that will help you to increase volume of output and also ensure high quality. This is a really great tool for setting up those automated workflows, referencing several different AIs or several different tools that might be available at your fingertips, and basically getting you to that outcome faster than if you did it yourself. I do have some thoughts around when it's best to use automations versus when it's best to use a no-code application or even buy software instead, but I'll save that for another time. But anyway, here what we're going to do is we're going to start off with our Google News search and our RSS feed that will go with that we're going to track and use as our newsworthy items. So here is where we'll click for our first module that will act as our trigger, and we're going to use an RSS feed. we're going to ask it to watch for RSS feed items. So it will trigger when a new RSS feed item is posted. So what is an RSS feed? An RSS feed is basically a URL that monitors a particular website, and whenever it gets updated, you're able to use that URL to track that newly updated information in another place effectively. So what we're going to do here is create our new RSS feed. So I have this topic that I want my blog to post time blog post articles about whenever there's something in the news, and it's going to help attract attention to my blog. So at the moment for me in this blog, this might be Web3 technology. So I'm going to just enter Web3 technology, and that produces these news outputs. And what I have here is I just have the URL for Google News right here. Now, what we want to do then is actually create that RSS feed. So that's when we can go to a place called RSS.app. And what we can do is create a new feed as well. So we'll take that URL and we'll insert it here and ask it to generate that RSS feed. And what this does is it creates a feed that we can save, and we're able to actually copy that feed and use it in our workflow and start to monitor these news articles as they come in. So it's important here just to look at some of these titles because they might pop up in our work later on, but they'll be regenerated titles as well. Okay, so if we go back to our Make.com workflow, we can insert that RSS feed here into our trigger. And we now have the ability to start collecting news from that RSS feed right now. So that's how we'll start off our process. And what we want to be able to do first of all is actually to generate the image that we are going to use in our final blog post. So we'll work on that first actually. And to do that, we're going to need to generate some ChatGPT prompts. First in normal ChatGPT, and then we're going to create an image prompt to use in a different module of ChatGPT. So if we go here and click add another module, what we can do is go to OpenAI, and we can say that we want to create a completion. So a completion is literally the equivalent of when you're in ChatGPT and you've got the text box open and you're typing something in and asking ChatGPT to respond. That's actually a basic version of what a completion is. So we're going to basically ask it to generate a new article title. So I'll click on that. And I'm going to set up my integration with OpenAI. Now, I've already created mine, but as you could see, it's quite easy to obtain just by inserting a URL or a key, the relevant access points for OpenAI. What we can actually do here, I'll just show you quickly in this box here, is with ChatGPT, what you have is the front end of it, which is free to sign up to or use without a login, and that's where you can interact with it as a chat. But this is actually the OpenAI platform. So if you go to platform.openai and you access the dashboard, at the bottom of it, tools for developers, and this is where you can obtain an API key, and that's when you can start to insert artificial intelligence into other parts of your business and reference it there or get it to do things for you in places other than the ChatGPT interface. So that's very important because sometimes actually leveraging ChatGPT and then running it in an automated fashion, it's much more effective than if you're constantly just feeding the chat prompts and information. And quite often that can actually feel like you're not getting anywhere as well. And it might simply be because you don't have a structured way of working with it as well. So if I go back here into my my workflow, what I would have done if I was setting this up anew is to click and add an API key, and I would have inserted it there. So now my account's verified with OpenAI and my ChatGPT account, and I'm able to use access to the GPT models that are available to me to access. So with that, what I thought would also be helpful, because we'll see two different versions being used in this particular workflow, is a quick overview of ChatGPT models and why they're different from each other and why it's valuable to actually leverage different ones for different purposes and string them together in this particular fashion. So if we go back here to our models page that you see here, what we actually have are descriptions of the different models in ChatGPT. So the default one, I think, usually is actually ChatGPT 4.0. But we have these other versions that are also accessible, many of them free with the login that you get with ChatGPT, and they have different strengths compared to each other. So ChatGPT 4.0 is very good at doing general tasks. If you ask it to tell you what the weather is, if you ask it to write a blog post, essentially it's leveraging the entire internet. And when you make a request of it, it's able to provide a high level response. That's very good quality that you can, then progress in your work. But sometimes when you're using AI, what you want ChatGPT to be able to do is you want it to be able to reason and use logic and think intelligently about a particular topic, and maybe even be able to explain that back to you. So for instance, the other day I actually was talking to ChatGPT, asking it to, prepare a theme for a particular website and provide reasoning for why I should choose particular colors. And the reason why is because sometimes it can be hard when you're developing a website to know what color scheme actually looks good. And you don't always have the ability when coding to actually, just click on a color and then see the combination of them together. So I wanted to know if it was able to read a color wheel or build a color wheel and actually tell me what colors look good together and what colors it should actually apply to different interfaces on my website. So using these high intelligence reasoning models, which are signaled with the 0, the O3 mini or the O1 model, that's the sort of thing that it's really good at. If you ask it to reason something like, I'm building a website and it needs a color scheme. What color schemes look good when my brand is like this? And what buttons should I apply to where that are consistent with design best practices? A reasoning model will actually sit there and go through, well, you said you're designing a website, and so we'll probably have these buttons. And the best practice for those for websites is actually to have accents of this shade and backgrounds that are this color. But you've said your brand looks like this, so you might want to have this sort of a color, and then it will do that sort of thinking for you, and then it will also apply those that reasoning to the recommendations of best practice that it's found online as well. So if you want it to do deep thinking or to analyze research, that sort of thing, that's when the reasoning models become very important as well. Okay, and the third one actually that we'll use in our workflow today, it's actually the image generation model. So within ChatGPT, there's the DALL models, and these are models that can generate and edit images when you give them a natural language prompt. So DALL 3 is the latest one, and that's actually the one we're going to use today. So we're going to start with an article title regeneration module using ChatGPT, and for that we're just going to use ChatGPT 4. And that, as I mentioned, is the one that does general tasks. So it's really good at just writing human language prompts. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to add a message, and we're going to say, as a user, and as a user, I am a blog post writer. I'd like you, we're talking to the GPT. So you are a blog post writer, and I'd like you to reference the article at this URL. And then we can actually take the input from our RSS feed and insert it here as image URL and view its contents. Write a SEO-optimized blog post title, no more than 10 words and with 1 sentence flow. So we just want a 1-sentence article title for our blog post. We want it to be freshly generated, not reusing the one from the original news article. And we want it to only be 10 words and just 1 simple sentence as well. So that's what we're able to do with this initial module. And that output is going to be referenced in our next step, which is when we're going to ask ChatGPT to create a response, a prompt actually for that image generator that I just mentioned with DALL 3. So Before we can actually ask it to create an image, we need to create a prompt describing what sort of an image we want to see. We can use that article title we just created as the inspiration for that, so that we're able to quickly get our prompt and get that inserted into DALL-E 3. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to create another module, and it's going to be OpenAI again, and we're going to go for that completion prompt again. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to ask ChatGPT using the 4.0 model. A little bit slow today. So as a user, you need to generate an image prompt referencing this blog post article title as inspiration. And that article title we can now obtain from the output of our previous workflow. So here we go to the drop-down choices. That's where we find our text, our message outputs. And this is where we access the content that was created in the previous step. That's what we want to reference. That's our article title, our newly generated article title. And that's going to be used here as the prompt to create our image prompt in the next step. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to, I think we've done everything. We need to here. Yeah, that's all good. And then we can go ahead and click save on that. And this third chat or OpenAI prompt is when we're going to switch to using that DALL-E 3 model and start generating our image. So if we go here, click on OpenAI, this time what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down and we're going to find generate an image using DALL-E 3. So we are now going to select our model, and this time it's giving us a different drop-down option because we've chosen a different mode of ChatGPT, and we're going to use DALL-E 3 as our option within that particular mode. And now we need our prompt, and our prompt is going to be the output from our previous workflow. Now, just FYI, this is when it becomes smart to actually rename your modules so that you know what they're actually for, because that's what makes the menu navigation easier. So this is going to be called article generation. This one's going to be called prompt generation, image prompt generation. And we're going to call this one image generation after this. So when we reference our model DALL-E 3 and we go down to prompt, what we can now see is this is our image prompt generation menu. So we want the output from that image prompt. We want to actually collect the image prompt and not something from the article section above. So this is it. This is our prompt for image generation. We're going to go ahead and click save here. And that's essentially our workflow for that part of image generation there. Now, from here, what we want to be able to do, of course, is not just generate an image, because blogs are usually writing, and the writing is what attracts attention to maybe our affiliate links, or or is what illustrates the meaning behind our image as well. So we need our blog post to actually have text. So from this point, what we're going to do is we're going to add another module. Just going to quickly reference this other one. And this is going to be called our post writer module. And this one's going to be a little bit more detailed and require a little bit of code, but it's going to be worth it in the long run. So if we go to our post writer module, what we can do is go back to using ChatGPT. What was it? Completion is what I'm thinking of. And then with that completion, what we're able to do is we're going to, just selecting 4.0. This is when we're going to prompt it to write our article for us. So we'll go to add message, and we'll go to as a user. And from here, what we'll actually type in, just double checking this, is we're going to write a blog post about the topic contained here. And we're going to insert the URL, the original URL that came in from the RSS feed. So it's referencing specifically the article, and we want it to use this title for the blog post. And that's going to come from our article generation output. So we'll go here to that section and select the content there. And then from here, we're also going to just give it instructions. You're a blog writer and you are turning the article given above into a unique SEO optimized blog post. Okay, the article of the blog post has already been given. Write only the body of the article, no title necessary in the body. Formatting. So this is when we're going to get specific about those stylistics, and a little bit of coding knowledge helps, because this is what prevents your blog post from looking too ChatGPT-ish, and you know, and it's what enables it to reflect a little bit of your personality or your branding as well. So that's when you can use HTML input. So here what we'll say is use H1, H2, and H3 headers. So that's what's going to give it that nice structure. And then use HTML. You choose what to bold and bullet point. So we can leave some of the style to ChatGPT, but make sure if you want to bold anything to use brackets, tags, and for bullet points. Close the bracket there. So this is how you can get that brand integrity attached to your blog post, but in an automated fashion, so that you're not needing to actually tweak the post too much when you get to that final stage. We can also insert the parameters as well, because if you're not specific with ChatGPT, it will generate 200 words, it will generate 600 words. So here we're going to just write parameters. This blog post, and it should be 1,000 words long. So we want it to be a fairly detailed blog post, because with the more words, that's when it's a little bit more de-optimized, maybe more likely to attract some interest. Okay, so that's what we're going to do for our actual post generation. And when we have, the input type, this is what's going to generate the text for our blog post. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to integrate this with WordPress as well. So with WordPress, and I'm just trying to remember now exactly how I set up the integration for that, and it is in the tutorial that I've linked below. But yeah, you have to have a WordPress blog set up, and you have to be able to access the API keys. So if you go to your blog, if you go to, I might just pull this over here. I'm just jogging my own memory as we talk. So this is my WordPress dashboard. I did claim a domain in order to be able to set up my website. There's the post section, which is what we'll use later, but then there's also the plugins sections as well. And if we look at the installed plugins, what did I install for this one? I can't remember how I did this. Make a connector. Oh, I'll go to installed plugins. I must have. Sorry, guys, I'll have to check back with you on that one. But basically, it's the same process, which is where you find a plugin, you install it, and then you obtain the API key. And that's what authenticates you with WordPress. I've noticed that it's actually the WordPress connection that I've got in my current model. If I look here, it's actually referencing my email address. So I think you're able to authenticate into your WordPress account in order to facilitate this integration. Okay, so moving right along, because I'm not very informative about that part of things. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to use my already verified WordPress integration. And this is what we're going to, process that image and get it installed basically on your blog's server so that it's able to retrieve it and insert it into your blog post. So what we'll do is we'll scroll down to create a media item. And what it's actually going to do by default is it's going to reference a file that was previously generated using DALL-E. So that's all taken care of here. Now, what we also want to do in this section is I think actually we just want to save it. And then from here, what we also want to do is we want to create the final place to actually send our blog post and assemble this all together. And so we're going to hit create a post. And this is when we're able to access those WordPress menu items. We're able to install the article, headline. So actually, which is generate an image prompt generation, article generation. Oh, yeah, it must be this one. Yeah, I've misnamed it, that's why. And then content. And then from here, we want to actually insert the content, which will actually be the result of that last completion that we created, which is our actual blog post. So that's where we're going to draft that blog post. Now, here is where we can actually say what kind of element it's actually going to be, or, component for a WordPress. In this case, that's just going to be a blog post, quite simple. And if we want to, we can actually attach it to a category in WordPress, and we can attach some tags as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to test our automation. Just maybe zoom out a little bit as well. So just going back to our automation, and we're going to click once. What we'll see is that we have maybe some updated news has come in since then. It doesn't actually update that frequently, it's every 45 minutes, about every hour or two. But what we can see is that it is watching the RSS feed. It's obtained the article, the new article title. It's prompted the image creation, and it's now pushing its way through to drafting out that blog post for us. So it's well on its way. I've noticed it tends to do most of its thinking at this point when it's drafting the blog post. Failed for 2 parameters. Open log. Validation failed for 2 parameters. What were those parameters? Missing value for data, missing value of required parameter file name. And I think that's because when I need to fix this. When it creates the image, yeah, it still says URL, and I meant this to be an image file. So that's probably what most of the problem is. Okay, and then just double checking the settings as well. Yeah, it doesn't seem to need anything else. So we will run that again. Yep. Okay. So that seems to have progressed nicely. Let's look at our output. We can click on the actual output here for the operation and click content. And we can see that it has generated a title. And importantly, our subtitle, getting a weird output for title here. Okay. Let's see what our output looks like on this occasion. Hit refresh. And we'll go to posts. Yeah, and there is an error with one of the prompts. It thinks that it's referencing a specific external article or URL, which suggests that I've done something a bit silly with that happened to me a couple of times last time, and I had to just sense check a few things. Writing about the topic in image URL. I think maybe you need to keep the language a bit less referential to the original content, because what happens here is it's generated, it's taken the original title and a description and a summary, so it's brought all that across, and then when we look at the output here, we look here, it says that I can't access specific external articles or URLs, but I can definitely help you create an image prompt. Okay, so I'm just going to run that again. It's not returning any new data, so we're going to select a specific article just for it to run against that, and we'll run it again. So let's see what it Yep, and it's done that. And I just noticed I forgot to tell it not to put apostrophes around it. So we're going to need to update that as well, because that's what ChatGPT does by default for titles. Okay, so let's hit refresh here. Here we go. Master effective communication. Okay, it's referencing okay. Title only and no need to wrap in apostrophes. It's not rendering the image either. So it produces a file called output1.png. And then here it should be, file name output1.png. It creates a GUI. Oh, I haven't configured that correctly. So it creates the GUI, which is the URL where WordPress basically files the image and gives it a unique file name. So we need to reference that actually in our post as well. So we need to edit this. Just checking this again. Yes, I forgot this particular setting. So in the final WordPress configuration, this is when you just do a little bit of basic configuring of the content to edit it effectively and insert the image. And I accidentally left this part out. So center, figure, class, equals, a bit of basic code here. Size, large. And we're going to insert the GUID reference, which is down here, and you can see that it's a URL with that unique output file name attached to it. So we'll hit GUID, and then alt equals apostrophe style equals width 650 px, height auto slash close bracket, and bigger, and slash send post goes underneath that. So we'll click save, and I think we'll have a much stronger result this time now that we've checked those little quirks. Sorry, I meant to hit run. So now we're running through our workflows. We've fixed our article generation, we're generating our images, and we should now be referencing them correctly in our WordPress post. It's taken a few seconds. Failed with an error. What happened now? Bundle validation area. WordPress, what did I do? I think it's created it as, it's a URL, but I wanted it to be an image file, and I mustn't have saved that correctly the first time. So we'll actually run that again. Okay, sorry, I just had to send a text message, but let's just hit refresh. Okay, we have our Web3 related article. We have our blog post. We don't have our image. I'm remembering now why this took me so long yesterday. Might just be. Oh, it didn't save our HTML. Well, I've already provided you with the HTML. The one thing I did actually want to mention, and I'll just show you as using this particular article as well, this workflow from, my previously built one as well, is sometimes when the image generates, it caches. So the thing I experienced previously when I was building out this workflow is that it felt like I was generating new content, but it was always presenting the same image. What I realized was that it was producing unique file names, but you did actually have to go in and refresh the image in its individual URL to make sure that it appeared correctly. So the way that I dealt with that is when I opened the draft menu for the blog post, I would hit refresh. And, that's a way that we can, make sure that the newly generated images appear. They are generating, but you have to kind of make sure that they don't get cached. Okay. Thanks very much for your time. I hope this was useful and instructive. I'm sorry we got a little bit sidetracked in the video. I'll try and cut some of those lengthier parts out, but thanks very much for your time and I hope this was useful. Have a good day. Bye.